Welcome to Behind the Muscle podcast. Today's guest is a newly crowned IFBB Pro. Today's guest is Nate Spear. Nate, for the third time, welcome to the podcast.
Can you say that again? IFBB what? No, I'm just kidding. It feels good. No. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to be on. Obviously, we had a chat right before Nationals, so I was a little bit more emotional, a little more anxious, that kind of thing. And, we sealed the deal, and, I returned home IFBB Pro, and it's pretty surreal, honestly. So
Super cool, man. And again, just like we were chatting before I turned on the mic, I'm always grateful for you taking some time to come on the podcast, Nate. And it's cool to now be able to introduce you as an IFBB Pro. So you've been on some other podcasts. I know there's probably going to be some podcasts still coming out in terms of wrapping up your weekend, but why don't you just talk about some of those feelings and emotions kind of going into prejudging, kind of where were you at mentally, and then talk about prejudging, and we'll just let it rip.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, actually, it's probably better because now I've had a little bit of time to reflect on it. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I like it when you're like fresh off the stage, but it's like, doesn't really hit you, so you get a couple of days, you're back home, in your environment, you can let it like sulk in a little bit. And I think that's sort of when, the real emotions actually take over, because you're sort of like reflect on it, you're sort of not doing as much, and things start to calm down a little bit, and you're like, oh shit. Like, so yeah, I mean, honestly, going into prejudging, I felt very confident. I knew I had a good feeling that I was definitely like going to be in the mix. Obviously previous years I've been third, I've got second ones at North American. So, I know if I bring my conditioning, I know I'm probably going to get looked at and get sort of in that first call out. And this year it really was different in my confidence. I knew going in that I could probably get the job done because I had made some substantial improvements from the previous year. Which in my mind, I was thinking, okay, last year, if I placed third at North Americans and third at Nationals, and I've improved upon that physique, then, more or less, I should probably, place a little bit better and be able to get the job done. So that was definitely in my head, and I've never been that confident going into a show. There's a lot of nerves and expectations, though. I mean, as far as, that's something I talked about too, is like, now that I'm pro, I feel like there's not going to be like that expectation and nerves of like, oh, like I have the expectation to like get the pro card, you know what I mean? Because I felt like that was definitely a little bit of weight going into the show. It didn't really like bother me, but it was just sort of like fleeting thoughts here and there. But yeah, so we started the morning of prejudging. I was just very, very happy with my look. Everything was coming together perfectly. Like the whole week leading into the show, like every day I was getting a little bit better, filling out a little bit more, but also staying nice and dry. So, that whole time I just, felt really good. And, we woke up, Saturday morning, and I just knew like, all right, like we got a physique that's definitely going to be battling for, the win. So, and then, prejudging started, and it's sort of like very anxious, nerves, that kind of thing. And, backstage, you're sort of like, don't know if like, you don't really want to talk to people, but you also don't want to be like, that person that doesn't just ignores people. So it's always hard because like some of my competition I'm friends with, but I don't really say much, you know what I mean? And then like after prejudging, like we'll talk, you know what I mean? So it's one of those things. But yeah, so, prejudging started, and, I got called out in the first call outs, and it's always weird because my name is towards the end, being Spear. They always do it in, alphabetical order. So if they're calling like, they called like 6 numbers, before mine, and I'm like sitting there waiting. And then they called mine last for the first call. It's like, oh, thank God, like sort of waiting there and being anxious. And then it was very strange because, there's an 8-man first call out. They immediately put Carlos. I think he started in the middle maybe. And then, I'm on the end, and then they moved me to like the other end. And then they sort of shuffled me around a little bit. And I was a little worried, definitely, like, oh shit. Like, I was like, cause I was in like maybe like 5th or 6th spot. And then they finally moved me, right next to Carlos, and me and him are splitting middle. And then, I knew it was game time, and I felt really good about that. And yeah, I mean, I fought till the end, and I thought I compared really well with Carlos. So that felt really good because I knew going into the show, he was definitely, the talk of the town, sort of got a lot of hype, rightfully so. I mean, he's a freaky guy. He's got those crazy quads, crazy arms, tiny waist. He has like that structure of like almost like a Keon, you know what I mean? So it's rightfully so. So yeah, I mean, and then when we got off stage, I had an idea that I felt like I was second, but that's where I was like, the waiting game sort of begins, because you have to wait till finals. And there's been instances in the past where people have thought I'm second or even first, and that's flip flop at night. They might rejudge it. That might go different than what you think. I've seen it happen before. Like I remember actually North Americans with Dominic Tripoline. He looked like he was first after prejudging and ended up third. And I thought that was so heartbreaking. And so that that was in my mind a little bit, and of course, people don't know, they pushed the show is so big, they pushed the finals back 2 hours. So, and bodybuilding's last and super heavyweights are last. So I literally, we didn't go on stage until like 12:30 at night. So that's a long wait to be in your head thinking, oh, did I really get this done? Is this, because it's easy to get in your head and say, man, of course, everyone after the prejudging coming up to me, man, you definitely got it. Congratulations. And I don't really like hearing that stuff. I mean, obviously the reassurance feels good, but at the same time, like, I don't want to hear it till it's really done and over with. But yeah, I mean, I felt like prejudging, I was really happy with my look. I honestly thought I was the biggest guy up there, which is uncommon for me. Usually I'm known as the shredded super heavyweight. That is, sometimes people might think, are you a heavyweight or super heavyweight? Well, this year there was no question in my mind that people knew I was a super heavyweight. You know what I mean? I just brought a really, really full round look. I was really happy with the look that we achieved, because in the past I had really been known as the conditioning guy. And, people tend to knock you because you're one spot away, and they said, well, if you would have done this, if you would have done that, so a lot of people tend to say, like, maybe I come in too flat because I'm chasing the conditioning. Well, this year it wasn't an issue, and we came in nice and full, and the conditioning was still there. Honestly, it was my favorite look to date. So that even feels even better, because sometimes too, people can turn pro. Like, honestly, Cade's a good example. I love Cade. He's a good friend of mine. But honestly, he'll agree with me too. The year before, I actually thought he could have beat Ron Gordon, and he brought a freaky, crazy, huge look. And then the year that he beat me, I don't even think he was at his best, because he suffered a tricep injury and he was out for a while. And it feels good that I brought my best look to date to earn that pro card.
So how did you and Andrew kind of get that balance right in terms of conditioning and fullness, as opposed to maybe not so to speak in years past?
So yeah, this year we did something a little bit different, and I'm really happy we did. So Andrew was looking at me literally like, after every meal or before every meal. So I'd post for him before every meal, and we'd sort of go by there. And, Friday, the day before prejudging, is just like, and actually the night before we did a photo shoot. There's a couple of pictures of I did them with my visions, and they're like gnarly, and like everything was just looking like crazy, and I looked big, massive, and still dry. And Andrew's like, man, maybe we should just keep the water in, because in the years past, what we would do is we would, completely shut off our water, dehydrate overnight, like 6 o'clock at night, 5 o'clock at night, cut the water off, use a little bit of diazide, and just sort of, dry out overnight and get really crisp. And then, have a little bit of water on prejudging, but just sips, you know what I mean, to keep that dry look. Well, this year, we, like I said, it was coming into Friday night, and Andrew's like, man, you just look so good. Like, I don't really want to mess with anything. So we didn't. So we kept the water in the whole time. We drank probably about 6 liters of water Friday up until I went to bed. So that's a lot of water, and I was still dry, you know what I mean? So it's like, and everything was in, my glutes were in at night. So we're like, okay, we're just gonna keep water in. We used like a tiny bit of diazide just to sort of keep the water moving. And then, yeah, we woke up Saturday, looked great, spot on, you know, full as a house. So usually what would happen is the past, we would carb up or whatever, and then, we would cut the water, and I'd wake up prejudging morning pretty flat. You can just tell because like you're not really popping. Like I was dry and detailed, but it was almost like the skin wasn't pressing and I wasn't like blasting full and round. So when I woke up Saturday morning, it was like I was still dry and had like a nice full look. So we literally kept drinking water that whole day, like 0.5 liters in between meals. And that was really what was the game changer, I think, in my physique. We usually always, because we usually always eat a fairly decent amount of carbs, usually like maybe 75 grams, 100 grams of carbs from like a rice product in each meal. But like I said, I'd go to bed Friday night nice and full from all the carbs, but then, we'd cut the water, take a little bit of Zyazide, and then Saturday morning we'd wake up and it was like, you know what I mean? The carbs wouldn't hold because I'd have no water in my muscular cells. So that was like a really game changer for me, and it made me feel a lot better, you know what I mean, as far as like day of the show and post-show rebound water effect. And obviously it's a lot healthier because your kidneys have a lot more fluids in there. So overall, it was a great experience and something that we'll probably end up sticking to in the future, especially now that we're a pro. Like fullness is way more crucial. So it's like you got to really find that balance. So it's really cool that we found that formula, and I was really happy with the look that we brought.
So, what was the actual amount of hours between when you stepped off stage for prejudging to when you stepped back on stage for finals? Like, how many hours difference was there, Nate?
Honestly, probably like 12 or 11. So, and it sucked too because so we had an Airbnb down the road and we ended up losing power. So we were going to hang out there, until like 9-10 o'clock at night because we knew prejudging was going to be so late. Like we were thinking like earliest 11, you know what I mean? So we're going to hang out at the Airbnb and just hang out, watch TV, whatever. And the freaking electricity goes out at like 6 at night. So we end up just having to go over the venue and hang out there. And I literally just laid on a couch for, like 4 or 3 hours. And it was a long wait, man. Cause I'm just like, oh my God, and then obviously, like I said, it's not only is it really late, but it was just like the anticipation of like, okay, like I think I'm about to get my pro card, but am I really, like that whole thing.
So how did you guys kind of manage the food and stuff in that, half of a day, like literally from prejudging to finals? How did you guys kind of manage the food? What did that kind of look like in between that gap of time?
Yeah. So after prejudging, we were really happy with my look. It was really about managing like going flat because at that point I feel like it was easier to like it was one of those things we had to like keep an eye on to keep the fullness, because if we underfed, like just from like the day of the show, the anxiety, the posing, sort of the high stress of an event can sort of help you like or make you like flatten out a little bit. So we did, after the prejudging, we did like a burger and fries to sort of help us fill out even more. And at that point too, we were also like we'd done a burger and fries in the past, and we know I should respond pretty well. And also, I can't remember what I was gonna say. I just drew a blank.
No, that's
Oh,
okay. You're fine. We're just talking about having the burgers and fries after prejudging and how that's kind of worked in the past.
yeah. So I was just saying, like, so me and Andrew were assessing my physique, and like we just kept getting better. Like, you know what I mean? So we were in a position where we thought, like, we really can't fuck this up as long as we don't go like too crazy. So we did like a burger and fries, went back home, laid down, tried to take a nap, relax. At that point too, you generally end up getting a little bit better because now all the cortisol is like lower, the prejudging anxieties, the nerves are sort of down. And you sort of, I mean, it's still like, the thought of like what's going to happen at finals, but it's much more like less stress because you're already in the mix. I mean, I knew like, when I was waiting that I felt like, 80% sure that I was getting the second place card. So it wasn't like super stressful. And then, we were just sort of eat like every 2 to 3 hours, just light stuff. Just a little bit of rice, small amount of protein, 3 ounces of protein or whatever, a little bit of fats from peanut butter, do like a little bit of rice cakes or whatever, and just sort of like try to manage that full look. Like I said, like, so we didn't go flat, and just sort of keep taking a look at us. Okay, we're still full, still round, still dry. So everything was good in that regard, and we kept the water going still. And yeah, I mean, I think I held the look pretty good until finals. We didn't get recompared or anything, just did a routine. I was really full. I probably could have been a touch drier, but I think that wasn't necessarily from the food. I think it was just from the waiting around, like, because like it's so hard to hold the look like for that long. And then not only that, like I generally go to bed at like 10 o'clock at night. So like my body at that point is like pretty tired. Like I felt tired. Like I'm just like, over it. Like, let's get this fucking shit over with. So, it's pretty hard to hold a look when they're like, okay, you're going to go on at almost 1 a.m. You know what I mean? And you already like peaked at freaking, noon or whatever. So it was definitely, hard, and kudos to anyone that came back better. You know what I mean? But yeah, so that's sort of what we did after prejudging into finals.
So let's talk about finals then. You finally get on stage. You, like you said, you do your routine. Once it's kind of the dust is settled, at what point did you know 100% that you got that second place pro card?
Honestly, not till they called Matt Berzicott's name in third, but because I was still like unsure. Like I don't know. Like I knew I was pretty much like right there, but like I said, it wasn't over until it's over. So when I heard Matt's name, I knew it, and I sort of took a sigh of relief, and I was like, oh, thank God, and it was weird because like in the moment, like I always think about this moment like before it happened, and like, oh, am I gonna cry? Am I gonna like, lose my mind? And it was like really just like sort of just like, okay, like I got it done. And like I said, now the emotions are actually more like coming aboard me now that the show is over, because it's just like sort of you get time to reflect, and like holy shit, like you sort of look back on your journey, look back on these moments where in the moment, when they called my name for the pro card, I was like just sort of like, oh shit, like I finally did it. But it wasn't like overwhelming, you know what I mean? I mean, I wish it was like more like, you know what I mean? But it's just sort of how, things happen.
So once you kind of like knew you had your pro card, and again the dust kind of settled. Now, did they did you guys like get have like some pictures and stuff like up on stage? What does it kind of look like for myself and some of the listeners that have never been to a big national show like that? What it kind of happens after you get your pro card, or who got their pro card? What does that kind of picture look like?
Well, I will say, like, so they just call the top 5 placings. Top 5 does the routine, so we sort of knew who the top 5 was. And then they go down 5th, 4th, 3rd, and then 2nd, new IFBB Pro, me, and then 1st, new IFBB Pro, Carlos. And then we sort of just take a couple pictures on stage, and then they keep Carlos, around for the overall. And like probably the best moment was like when I went backstage and I was just by myself, and I just sort of soaked it in, and I made a little video clip, just talking and saying how grateful I was for everything and everyone, like, because I felt like I have a lot of support for the show, and a lot of people sort of rooting for me. And then after that, I went out, and first person I saw was my girlfriend and my coach, and both gave them a big hug, and I could tell like Andrew was very, very happy, and it was a really cool moment that we got to share. We got a picture of us hugging and stuff, and then I got a picture with my girlfriend, and it was just really cool, like, because I think they were almost like more emotional than me because they've seen sort of the journey from so close, and my girlfriend's obviously seen how much I've put into this, and she's been right there beside me, you know, through the hard times, the good times. And I think, you know, Andrew and my girlfriend, they look at moments like last year and some of the other moments where I was so close and we thought we could have got it and, you know, we didn't. And, you know, those are the times that were like sort of hard. It was like, but we finally, you know, got to, you know, celebrate and got it done, you know.
What did you have anything to eat, or did you guys kind of just head back to your Airbnb and hit the hay, or what did that look like?
Yeah, so we actually went out for a pizza. We found a place that was open till like 3 in the morning. It wasn't the greatest pizza, but it was still some grease and had some cheesecake and a couple cookies. So that was really nice. I'm definitely a big pizza guy. So usually post show, that's usually what I get. And then the next morning we went out for some good breakfast. You can never go wrong with a breakfast after the day before, the day after the show. So that was nice, and it's always just nice to sort of celebrate with friends and stuff like that. And because obviously you don't really get to go out and do much. So um, and then I actually got some ice cream too to bring home from Walgreens. So that was good.
Yeah, sounds good, man. So this is kind of a fun question, but who was what was kind of like the coolest text message or congratulations maybe through Instagram that you got? Maybe it was like a, you know, a current IFBB pro that you've looked up to for years, or was there something like that where you're like, whoa, like this person like sent me a DM, or this person texted me, this is kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty cool. Hunter LeBrod actually texted me and congratulated me. We exchanged numbers like a while back, and we don't really like talk that much, but it was pretty cool for him to go out of the way and sort of, you know, shoot me a text and like, oh, you know, finally, you know, congratulations, you finally got it done. Like, welcome to the pro league. Then Regan Grimes messaged me and was like, congratulations on your win, or, you know, getting the pro card. And then you know, I shared on my story that, you know, Fuad and Ian were sort of talking about me, and Ian gave me a lot of praise, you know, saying that it was pretty close with me and Carlos. It could have gone either way. And, you know, that I had one of the best Avent thighs he's seen in a while. So, you know, there's a lot of like small stuff like that for sure. I mean, Dorian Hamilton too, you know, said I looked great and that kind of stuff. And, you know, just, yeah, so there's a lot of small little moments, you know, that, the weekend was like pretty overwhelming and a big success. I felt like I got a lot of, you know, cool recognition, and a lot of great photos. Some good. I did that photo shoot like the day before the show. That was really good. And then I did a photo, the video that came out like a couple weeks before the show with the New England Muscle Media. He's my buddy up here. He does a great job, and that was the one with like the posing in that red room. That got a lot of hits, so it's pretty cool. You know, I felt like I got a lot of buzz and recognition. And, you know, Dave Palumbo even said on his podcast that I'd make a great pro, which was like sort of surprising me. So that was pretty cool. You know, Chris Aceto said I looked phenomenal. And so, you know, those are some pretty big names to sort of, you know, be giving you some spotlight. So it's cool.
For sure. So we'll wrap it up here in a couple minutes, but have you or Andrew or both of you, have you guys had any conversation about what's next in terms of your pro debut, or have you not even gotten to that point yet?
No, so we actually got something in the works. So we're actually 11 weeks out. So we're doing the Boston Pro Show, first ever. So, you know, some people might be like, oh, he's not ready for that or whatever. I mean, I don't really care what they think, but my whole thing is like, it's in my backyard. You know, 40 minutes from Boston. So I consider myself a Boston native, you know what I mean? Because if you're in New Hampshire, you're sort of like Southern New Hampshire, you're pretty much Massachusetts. And all my family is from this area, you know, so my family, friends will finally get to go to a show. Whereas like, you know, before when the national shows, it's like the shows are in like Florida, Vegas, you know, Pennsylvania. So not many people get to see those shows. So I finally get to do that. And then I was also going to say, you know, I don't have to pay for the hotel or flight, you know, like I can just get tanned at my house and then drive down. So that makes life a lot easier. And then also is, you know, 12 weeks after nationals. So it sort of made sense. It was like a no brainer. Like I'm already in shape, you know, in the previous years, I've already done 12-week stretches with the North Americans to nationals. So it's like something I've already done. I feel confident I can, get better. And then I can sort of look at my physique against some of these guys and, go back to the drawing board and say, okay, like I stood with these guys. Now let's get to work. And it will be a really fun show because the Arnold Classic is literally the week before that. So you're going to have some guys from the Arnold go and do that show, that some pretty big names. I know Regan Grimes is doing it. I know Phil Kilhar is doing it. And I'm sure more will come after the Arnold, because the Arnold's stacked. I mean, I'm assuming I bet you like Akeem Williams will do it, and some of those guys that are from more the East Coast. So it should be a fun time, to stand next to some really good big names,
That's awesome, dude. I'm excited for it. We'll have to do round 4 then, dude, leading up to the Boston Pro here on the podcast. So maybe not at the Boston Pro, but in the future, is there a current IFBB Pro, Nate, that you can't wait to step on stage with and compete against?
Well, just because it's so fresh, I mean, I want a rematch against Carlos. and honestly, we're good buddies. Like, Carlos is a really nice kid. I know his dad really well. I told this story on another podcast, but it's pretty funny. Like, I remember meeting him 3 or 4 years ago, and we really hit it off instantly. And I told him he's going to be a great pro someday. And that was when he was a middleweight. You know what I mean? I just could tell because you see the insertions, the muscle bellies. I didn't think he'd be grow to be that big, but I knew he'd be a good 212 pro. Obviously he's going to be an open pro now, but it's pretty cool because we were laughing about it this weekend, and I was talking to his dad, his dad and him are so close. His dad goes everywhere with him and stuff like that. So I think we have a tight little friendship there. So if I could get on stage with them again and beat him, that'd be cool.
Yeah, probably a few of the guys that maybe have placed one place or two places ahead of you in the past. I'm sure you're probably looking forward to competing against them in the pro ranks, right?
Yeah. So there's another guy too. Not a lot of people know who he is because he sort of disappeared after he turned pro, but Ben Rafaelia, he's from Connecticut. So he's close to my area, and he beat me by 1 placing and turned pro in 2019. So that'd be cool. And then also Brent Swanson, me and him have done numerous shows together. I beat him 1 year, then he beat me last year to turn pro. So, those little rivalries are always fun. And yeah, like you said, some of the guys that sort of edge me out, if I could get back at them, it's always fun.
For sure. I don't know how much you got to necessarily look around at maybe some of the other competitors, but maybe some of the guys that were in your class, or maybe some of the guys in the heavyweight class that maybe you saw over the weekend that didn't get their pro card. Are there any guys that are kind of up and coming, Nate, that at some point they will be IFBB pros too, just from what you saw of them this past weekend at Nationals?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, Chris Fine sticks out to me a lot. He was a super heavyweight. He got 4th. He has really good size. He has decent shape, good legs. He's just got to bring in his condition a little bit more. And I think he'll definitely be getting his pro card. I knew he was going to be in the mix coming into this. And then obviously Matt Berzicott, who got the placing behind me, he actually beat me when I did USAs in 2018. So that was sort of bittersweet to sort of, come back and he's someone I looked up to too when I was coming up. He'd been on the scene for a while, him and John Izzy, Irizarry. Both those guys had been on the national scene for a while when I was starting to get my feet wet at nationals and stuff like that. So I think both those guys, I think John could be a really good pro. He's just got to nail his conditioning, but he has all the pieces. He has size, shape, roundness to his muscle. So if he can just sort of get that conditioning dialed in, I think he could definitely easily get his pro card and be a good pro as well. And then in the heavyweights, I was going to say, now I'm drawing a blank, but that kid, Brandon Bell, he's really good. He's definitely got some potential. He's 24 too. Just got to bring the backside up, but he's got the shape, the look. He's got a really, really pleasing look. And then, yeah, also too, the kid that turned pro in the light heavyweights. I can't remember how to say his last name, but Mike Condell. He'll be really good 212 pro too, I think. And I talked to Janowitz too, and he said he's got to try to give the 212 a go. So that he's going to be a really big 212. So he could definitely do pretty well in that class. And then, you know, obviously, like everyone knows Justin Shire is going to do really well. And, you know, Carlos will probably do really well. They just have the structure and the flow and, you know what I mean, all the bells and whistles. So
For sure. Yeah. A few of those guys that you named, I've got them coming on the podcast. I'm looking forward to chatting with them next week. But all right, let's wrap this up, Nate. Like you said, you've kind of had some time to reflect and kind of think over the weekend. What's kind of like the main takeaway for you personally to kind of put the bow, so to speak, on nationals for you personally?
well, I mean, obviously, besides earning my pro card, this weekend has really given me a boost of confidence that I've needed. I felt like I can really look at my physique and be really proud of it and think I have a bright future in the pro ranks, whereas before I really wouldn't believe that. It was one of those things where, man, if I could just turn pro. But now, after looking at this weekend and the physique I brought, I feel like if I can keep getting better, which I do every year, that I can be competitive in the pro ranks, not necessarily win pro shows, but you know, maybe place top 5 and stuff like that. And honestly, I think, you know, a goal of mine is to make it to Olympia stage one day, you know, even if it's off points, you know, it's you know, maybe, you know, my thought in my head is, you know, do, you know, the Boston show, you know, then go back and improve and then maybe make a run for a lot of shows and try to get those points and try to get to Olympia stage, you know what I mean? So, and I don't think it's too far fetched, but you know, we'll see.
Cool, man. Any final thoughts or anything, any shout outs or anything like that, Nate, before I close it out?
I mean, definitely my girlfriend, Abby, she's been like so supportive of this prep and it's really brought us really close together. She's just done so much for me and it's really brought our relationship closer, which is awesome. Then obviously my coach, Andrew Barry, we've been together for about 6 or 7 years now, really close friendship now. And just like everything I couldn't have really done without him. And then I got to give a shout out to my man, New England Muscle Media. He's done a lot of footage for me. And if you guys aren't following him, go over to his Instagram page. He's got a lot of great content. And we're going to be doing some stuff next weekend with actually that kid, Mike Condell, down in Boston at a gym down there. And also check out my YouTube channel. I started doing some more stuff. It's Nasty Nate Spear. So we're going to try to be putting out more content, being more active. Like I'll say, like, it was really hard I wanted to be more active, but it's hard when you're fighting for that pro card because it's like, you don't really want to give too much away. And there's that pressure, like I said. So, you know, leading up to the show, I posted a lot towards the end, but I didn't post a lot leading up to it because I didn't really want to give my competition any motivation to come in like better conditioned or, you know, that kind of stuff. So when I knew like, okay, I'm 2 weeks out or whatever, like they don't have enough time to like get in better conditioning if they're not already. So now I can post. So whereas now that I'm a pro, it's like that thought isn't really there. It's sort of just, like I said, I'm more relaxed. I'm not really as, you know, concerned or anxious about like, oh, I got to get my pro card, you know, because I've been so close. Now there's like way less pressure. So it makes me a little bit easier to put out more content and that kind of stuff. So definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel. Check it out. I appreciate it.
Cool. All right, Nate, for the third time, man, I appreciate your time and I appreciate you coming on. Like I said, we'll get you back on either pre Boston Pro or post Boston Pro or both. And we'll just kind of keep the Nate Spear edition of Behind the Muscle going. Okay, man.
Yeah, man. I always appreciate you having me on. It's a pleasure and an honor. Thank you.
For sure. You're welcome. All of you who are tuning in to another episode of Behind the Muscle podcast, thank you so much. Make sure you guys get on Instagram and make sure you go follow Nate, get on YouTube and subscribe to Nate's YouTube channel. If you're on YouTube, going to subscribe to Nate's YouTube, make sure you stop at Behind the Muscle podcast on YouTube and subscribe to our channel. If you haven't done so already, that's where I release all of these episodes first, and then I shoot them out to the other podcast platforms. Don't have really a whole lot else to say, but just continue to support Nate as he is 11 weeks out, as he just announced from the Boston Pro. I appreciate all of you. Make sure you guys have a great Christmas weekend. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll catch you later on another episode of Behind the Muscle. And then just always remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. We'll catch you guys later.